If you've ever wondered why you say yes to certain requests, make decisions that feel automatic, or fall for marketing tactics, influence reveals the hidden psychological triggers that guide human behavior and shows you how to use them wisely in your life. You'll learn this entire book in just a few minutes. Let's have a productive life. Chapter 1. Levers of Influence, Power, Tools of the Trades. Humans are complex decision makers, yet we rely heavily on mental shortcuts to manage the overwhelming number of choices we face every day. These shortcuts, or automatic responses, help us save time and effort, but they also make us predictable and sometimes vulnerable to manipulation. In this chapter, Cialdini compares these human behaviors to fixed action patterns in animals, reflexive actions triggered by specific cues. For instance, humans often respond positively to requests when they include the word because, even if the reason provided is trivial. It's as if the word because flips a mental switch, compelling us to comply. One illustrative example is an experiment where a person asked to cut in line at a copying machine. The request, "May I use the copier because I need to make copies?" worked just as effectively as a more substantial reason. This highlights how automatic responses can override logical decision-making. Alfred North Whitehead once said, "Civilization advances by extending the number of operations we can perform without thinking about them. But we must recognize when those operations might work against us." To harness this principle in your own life, start by observing the triggers that lead to automatic decisions. If you're making a request, offer a clear reason, even if it's simple. And when faced with automatic responses, pause to assess whether the action aligns with your values. Simplicity in communication, like a clear and purposeful "because," can be an incredibly effective tool. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Chapter 2. Reciprocation, the old give and take. The principle of reciprocity is rooted in a universal social rule. If someone does something for you, you feel compelled to return the favor. This creates a powerful sense of obligation, which can foster cooperation or, as Cialdini illustrates, be exploited in marketing and sales. Think of those free samples at grocery stores. They're not just a kind gesture, they're designed to make you feel like you owe something in return, perhaps purchasing the product. Cialdini shares how small, seemingly insignificant favors can prompt people to make disproportionate reciprocations. For instance, researchers found that when diners received a small mint along with their check, tips increased significantly. This demonstrates the strength of reciprocity in influencing behavior. To apply this principle positively, you can use small acts of kindness to build stronger relationships. Be mindful, however, of situations where someone might be leveraging this rule to manipulate you, such as unsolicited gifts designed to make you feel indebted. Lastly, remember that genuine generosity doesn't require immediate repayment. It's the intention that counts. Chapter 3. Liking, the friendly thief. We naturally gravitate toward people we like. This principle, simple yet profound, highlights how factors like similarity, compliments, and familiarity enhance likability and, in turn, influence our behavior. Cialdini calls this principle the friendly thief because likability can be such a subtle but effective means of persuasion. For instance, in sales, finding common ground, whether it's a shared hobby or a mutual acquaintance, can increase the likelihood of a successful transaction. Even something as simple as a genuine compliment can create a positive connection. As Cialdini explains, we like people who are like us. To strengthen relationships, focus on identifying authentic points of connection with others. Use compliments sincerely, not as flattery, to build trust and rapport. However, always be mindful when someone uses their likability to sway your decisions. Evaluate their intentions critically. While it's natural to follow those we like, it's important to ensure their goals align with our best interests. Chapter 4. Social Proof, Truths Are Us. When we find ourselves in uncertain situations, we often look to the behavior of others to determine what's right. This phenomenon is called social proof. It's the idea that if many people are doing something, it must be the correct course of action. For example, when you walk into a restaurant and see a long line, you instinctively assume it must be good. Social proof becomes even more powerful when the people we observe are similar to us or when the situation feels ambiguous. Cialdini highlights this principle with the quote, "When we are unsure of what to do, we often look to others for cues." This explains why trends, testimonials, and popularity ratings are such effective marketing tools. Companies often use reviews or phrases like best-selling to persuade you that their product is the best choice. But here's the thing. Just because a crowd believes something doesn't make it right. To apply this principle thoughtfully, showcase positive testimonials or endorsements in your work, as these can lend credibility. However, remain cautious when you're tempted to follow the herd. Pause and evaluate whether the actions you're mirroring align with your goals or values. Herd behavior might feel safe, but it's not always wise. Chapter 5. Authority. Directed deference. Authority is one of the most compelling forces in influence. People tend to comply with requests from those they perceive as experts or authority figures, often without questioning the legitimacy of that authority. This is why doctors in lab coats are frequently used in commercials. They symbolize expertise and trust. As Cialdini points out, titles, clothes, and trappings often speak louder than competence. One striking example comes from a study where participants followed questionable instructions simply because they came from someone wearing a uniform. This shows how deeply ingrained our deference to authority can be. However, the symbols of authority, such as titles, credentials, or attire, aren't always a guarantee of substance or expertise. To protect yourself, always verify the legitimacy of authority figures before acting on their advice. In your own communication, you can use credible markers of authority, like certifications or clear expertise, to strengthen your influence. Most importantly, stay vigilant against those who use the appearance of authority to manipulate or mislead you. Chapter 6. Scarcity. The rule of the few. Scarcity plays on a simple yet powerful psychological truth. People want what they think they can't have. When an opportunity or resource is perceived as limited, its value skyrockets. This principle is at the heart of marketing tactics, like limited time offers, or phrases like "only 2 left in stock." As Cialdini says, the idea of potential loss plays a large role in human decision-making. For instance, consider how urgency is created during holiday shopping seasons. The fear of missing out, commonly referred to as FOMO, drives people to act quickly, often making hasty decisions. Scarcity taps into this fear, creating a sense of urgency and increasing the perceived value of an item. To use this principle wisely, frame opportunities as unique or time-sensitive when appropriate, especially in professional negotiations. But when you're on the receiving end, resist the pressure of artificial scarcity. Take a moment to evaluate whether the item or opportunity truly aligns with your needs and goals. By recognizing when scarcity is being manufactured, you can make more rational and deliberate choices. Chapter 7. Commitment and consistency. Hobgoblins of the mind. Let's begin with the principle of commitment and consistency. People are hardwired to strive for consistency between their actions and commitments, even when those commitments are small. Once we've made a choice, we feel compelled to stick with it, whether it's a small promise or a major decision. Cialdini points out, once we make a choice, we are bound to stick with it to justify our initial decision. Small commitments, such as agreeing to a minor favor, can pave the way for larger behavioral changes over time. Imagine you agree to sign a petition for a cause you care about. Later, you're more likely to donate money or volunteer because that initial small act of support created a psychological need to stay consistent with your earlier actions. This principle can be powerful, but it also makes people vulnerable to manipulation, especially when influencers exploit this need for consistency. To apply this principle thoughtfully, reflect on your commitments and ensure they align with your goals and values. Use small, achievable commitments to build momentum toward larger objectives, like developing a new habit or working on a long-term project. However, be wary when someone leverages your desire for consistency to manipulate your decisions. Reassess, and don't hesitate to change course if necessary. Chapter 8. Unity. The we is the shared me. Now let's explore the principle of unity, which is all about shared identity and belonging. People are more likely to act in the interest of those they see as part of their group, whether that group is based on family, culture, or shared values. Cialdini emphasizes, people are more likely to be influenced by those they see as one of them. When people feel connected to others through a shared identity, the power of persuasion is amplified. For example, think of a sports team and its passionate fan base. Fans rally behind their team because they see it as part of their identity. It's not just the team's win, it's their win. This sense of unity also plays out in workplaces, where emphasizing shared goals and values can inspire collaboration and loyalty. To harness this principle effectively, focus on highlighting commonalities with others to build stronger relationships. In team settings, emphasize shared objectives and a sense of collective purpose. But keep in mind that unity can also be used to manipulate decisions. Stay objective and evaluate whether the group's interests align with your own. Chapter 9. Instant Influence. Primitive Consent for an Automatic Age. Finally, let's examine the role of instant influence in today's fast-paced world. Modern life bombards us with complexity, leading us to rely on automatic decision-making shortcuts. These mental shortcuts can save time and effort, but they also leave us vulnerable to manipulation by those who understand how to exploit them. Cialdini warns, automatic responses save us time and effort, but leave us vulnerable to manipulation. For instance, think of online shopping. When a website shows only 2 left in stock, it creates a sense of urgency that drives us to act without fully considering whether we need the product. This reliance on quick judgments can make us susceptible to marketing tactics and influence strategies. To counteract this, slow down and take a moment to reflect before making important decisions. Develop habits that encourage thoughtful consideration, even in high-pressure or fast-moving environments. Lastly, learn to recognize when someone is leveraging these automatic responses to shape your behavior and approach those situations with greater awareness and caution. Influence by Robert Cialdini provides a fascinating look into the principles that shape how we make decisions and interact with others. By understanding these psychological triggers, you can become more aware of how influence works and more deliberate in your responses to it. Whether you want to communicate more effectively, build stronger relationships, or simply make better choices, this book equips you with actionable strategies to do so. Ultimately, influence empowers readers to navigate a world full of persuasion with clarity and confidence.